Welcome back, traveller. Tonight we slip past the velvet rope into private chambers and unmask the gap between royal image versus reality. You'll see how Elizabeth I Hygiene actually worked. Less bathtubs, more systems. Linen rotations, staged breezes, court sanitation checklists, and royal grooming. But Fort Palace smells with brains, not bubbles. In plain terms, Tudor Hygiene meant remove, air, replace, then scent, an Elizabethan cleanliness playbook that kept a crowded palace deceptively fresh. You'll pocket fast wins, how to read a room by scent, why perfume should never lead cloth. Face the risks, cirrus, cracks, lice, patrols, and watch the myth get edited in real time. Ready to smell the truth and keep your name intact. Before we dive in, please like the video, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. You step into Whitehall, and the air introduces itself before anyone does. Warm rushes, beeswax, wet wool, and cooked tallow stage, a welcome committee. This is where palace smells run the show. Good, bad, and bizarrely poetic. Your wrist twitches toward a pomander. Your eyes adjust to gold and smoke. Behind the paint and pearls, the truth about Elizabeth I, Hygiene breathes. From minute one you feel royal image versus reality tugging at your sleeve. Let's be honest, water wasn't the villain, but it wasn't the hero either. Doctors fretted over pores opening and letting sickness march in. So in Tudor Hygiene, washing meant strategy. Hands, face, and linens first. Full immersion. Rare, planned and guarded, like diplomacy. Elizabethan cleanliness lived in layers, linen against skin, changed often. It's less mud and more management, and you'll see why fast. Picture her private chambers like a spaceship of linen and ritual. Heated water in basins, rose distillates, and almond oil whispers. Valets and gentlewomen choreograph water, the way courtiers choreograph words. Royal grooming begins where steam meets starch and habit. In this world, cloth is soap that you wear and replace. That's the secret spine of Elizabeth I Hygiene most memes miss. Follow your nose to the sweet shop of survival. Pomanders and pastils. Cloves, ambergris, civet, little storms trapped in silver filigree. Not just luxury, but armor against crowds and palace smells. Think portable garden whenever the court turns swampy. Elizabethan cleanliness equals curated air inside a hectic century. And yes, it's oddly modern, personal microclimate, 16th century edition. Cosmetics, masterpiece, and a minefield in the same jar. Ceruse, lead white, made the famous mask. Rosewater softened the bite. Beeswax sealed the portrait. Orris root perfumed the pose. Royal grooming was chemistry class with royal consequences. You see, royal image versus reality. Every time the mirror wins the argument. Grace takes work and a risky toolkit to stay believable. Now tilt your ear toward pipes and drains that only sort of work. Court sanitation meant gone farmers, night soil and cautious gravity. Guardrobes whispered into moats. Moats whispered back when it rained. Engineers fought odors with lime, rushes, and stubborn optimism. If you smelled triumph, someone just emptied something bravely. Tudor Hygiene was part plumbing, part prayer, part payroll. Linens did the heavy lifting. Laundry was the empire behind the empress. Fine Holland shirts, wicked oils, so skin stayed calmer than rumour. Changing often, weekly, even daily when fever prowled. Counted as bathing. Steam lie, pounding in a courtyard wind that snapped fabric like flags. That snap was the anthem of Elizabethan cleanliness in practice. You could smell victory, sun-dried, faintly soapy, almost floral. Hair hid a library of quiet hacks and loud jewels. Combs, rosemary infusions and cautious powders kept the scalp social. Wigs padded politics when real hair got moody or thin. Attendants mapped strands like cartographers with ivory tools. Royal grooming here was patience disguised as sparkle. And yes, private chambers were the backstage where miracles rehearsed. She did more than the myth, less than your shower app. Select days. Warm rooms guarded privacy, measured scents. A bath could be a strategy meeting with steam and cinnamon. Her physicians timed it to health, planets, and common sense. So file Elizabeth I, hygiene, under intentional, not constant. That nuance separates history from hashtags every single time. Crowds complicated everything. Sweat, perfume, wet dog, velvet. Halls packed with bodies made palace smells intensify like gossip. Hence the herb-strewn floors, rushes mixed with mint, lavender, thyme. They muffled steps and absorbed what drains forgot. Court sanitation was half maintenance, half theatre, all necessary. The nose kept the minutes when scribes got busy. Now the politics of scent, branding by aroma, not just by paint. Citrus for clarity, rose for mercy, musk for power at low volume. She learned to enter a room 2 seconds before her perfume. That's royal image versus reality turned into choreography. Elizabethan cleanliness becomes narrative when the air agrees. Your lungs read the press release long before your eyes do. Here's the paradox you'll keep in your pocket tonight. Cleanliness wasn't absence. It was presence of linen, oils, ritual. Your Hygiene wasn't barbaric. It was differently engineered. It optimized what could be controlled in a crowded, drafty world. Inside those private chambers, the Queen edited the day's aroma into order. Next, I'll unlock the toolkit, recipes, powders, and the scented espionage of a crown. Start with cloth, not tubs. In Tudor logic, linen is soap you wear. A fresh linen shift pulls oil and sweat, like a quiet magnet. Swap the chemise, and you've bathed without a drop. Seriously clever. That's Tudor hygiene as engineering. Absorb, remove, repeat. For Elizabeth I hygiene, frequent changes were policy, not luxury. It's the backstage secret of Elizabethan cleanliness that memes ignore. Picture dawn in the washyard. Steam, lie, and gossip on the wind. Laundresses wrestle sheets like sails. Paddles drum a staccato rhythm. Alum a wine vinegar rinse. Chemistry by apron string. Garments blued to look brighter. Stains negotiated, not denied. When you sniff that sun-baked crispness, filth has lost the round. Cleanliness here is choreography, not a single heroic splash. Inside, private chambers, linens are inventory and shield alike. A lady-in-waiting notes when the chemise must surrender its post. Starch turns roughs into architecture. Scented starch adds diplomacy. You smell lavender sachets and orange blossom under stiffened lace. That powdery scent is a status line you can read with your nose. It's royal grooming by textile, subtler than any sermon. Numbers matter. 2 changes a week for some, more when fevers lurk. On progress, chests of clean linen move like small white armies. End of store. Freshness is rationed against weather, distance, and plague rumour. Household ordinances decide who changes when and how often. Clean by change is logistics. Cloth as calendar for bodies. This is court sanitation, with needles, not pipes. Parasites hate vigilance. Enter the louse comb and quick fingers. Nitpicking wasn't an insult. It was Thursday afternoon. Comb heat and rosemary smoke put lice on notice. Wigs and false hair got quarantined like tiny sieges. You prevent infestation by never giving vermin a holiday. Against palace smells fibres, fight first and win often. Smell the room, rush-strewn floors, candle wax glow, damp stone, brushes trap crumbs, ash and shoe mud. Then get replaced. Mint, thyme, and wormwood seeded among the blades mask foul odors. It's deodorizing as landscaping, cheap and surprisingly poetic. When you hear the soft rustle under slippers, that's hygiene working. Royal image versus reality is part botany, part broom. Medical belief shapes laundry too. Miasma versus fresh air. Open windows when the wind behaves. Close them when it gossips. Humoral theory likes warmth and dryness for balance. Damp cloth equals sick cloth. So airing lines become doctrine. Sunlight is the quiet physician nobody argues with. Even Elizabeth I hygiene bows to the sun's resume. Teeth? Not minty ads, more tooth powders, salt, clove, and rinses. Cloth towels polish enamel. A wine vinegar rinse cuts grease. Halitosis is the enemy perfume cannot always defeat. So linen meets mouth. Napkins, cloth wipes, ritual after bites. This is bodily care by fabric, not foam and flourish. Again, Tudor hygiene hacks the problem with textiles. Laundry sounds like music. Slap, twist, squeeze, then sigh. Water hauled in chains. Ash turns to alkali in wooden tubs. Hands redden, steam, writes prayers on winter breath. On lines, shirts snap like flags. Victory over grime and stench. When a queen smells of rose water, thank 10 people with cold hands. That's Elizabethan cleanliness. Collective labour masked as magic. Clothes become climate control, layers as thermostats with buttons. A dry chemise, a warmed ruff, a gown that breathes. Wetter fabric is betrayal. Dry fabric is friendship with benefits. Air garments nightly. Airing garments is half the gospel. The other half is storage with herbs and honest moth warfare. Textiles keep palace smells at the polite edge of your day. Propaganda loves laundry. Gloriana needs immaculate edges. White cuffs glowing under torchlight, read as moral authority. Royal image making ties Elizabethan cleanliness to virtue. But servants know the invoice, soap, starch, and sore wrists. That gap is royal image versus reality in cotton and ink. Spin the myth, sure, but pay the laundress on time. And here's your takeaway you can use tomorrow, no rough required. Cleaning isn't just ablutions, it's systems, rotation, airflow, fabric choice. Deodorizing by design beats drowning yourself in scent. If you control the inputs, the day behaves more kindly. Elizabeth's court did it with linen. You'll do it with routines. Next up, the face, ceruse, rouge, and how beauty could quietly bite back. You walk into her private chambers, and the table already hums. Mortars, brushes, tiny boxes that click like secrets being told. A handmaid warms rose water. Another stirs a paste the colour of snow. This is royal grooming as theatre. Quiet, exact, and a little dangerous. The face is policy. The palette is the press office of royal image versus reality. Breathe in. Powdery scent, candle wax glow, faint bitter cloves. First layer, first gamble. White lead, ceruse, sometimes Venetian, always bold. It smooths small scars, skin cracks, and yesterday's worry lines. It also whispers mercury and arsenic if mixed by a reckless apothecary. But the mirror obeys. The portrait behaves. The legend steps forward. For Elizabeth, hygiene clean means visually pure, not chemically innocent. That's Elizabethan cleanliness measured in light, not in lather. You powder the forehead to widen it, intelligence framed in frost. You soften the jaw. So firmness looks like mercy at arm's length. A dust of alum tightens pores. A veil of herbal distillates cools pride. Rouge lands last. A pulse painted where history can see it. This is Tudor hygiene via optics, washing the eye that judges you. And it works, until the mask asks for rent from the skin beneath. Don't picture slapdash, picture symphony. Brushes keep time. The clink of pomander marks measures. Lace whispers the downbeat. A dab of civet or ambergris warms the air into cooperation. Perfumed gloves hide palace smells gathering near the doorframe. As court sanitation falters outdoors, glamour disinfects the gaze indoors. It's not denial. It's strategy when plumbing can't keep up. Now, the caution label no one reads aloud. Ceruse dries. Microfissures open like winter in a field. Cover again tomorrow, and the skin cracks deepen into tiny stories. Some reach for corrosive sublimate, a mercury fix with a cruel aftertaste. You can smell sour vinegar notes used to soothe the sting. Well, that's the bill for royal image versus reality, itemized in pores. Myth check gently. Did she never bathe? Not the point. Face washing happened. Rose water, warm cloths, careful ablutions. But heavy removal strips. Then the skin begs for oil, then powder. Fin de discussion. Round and round, a carousel of grooming rituals and recovery. Elizabeth I's hygiene is maintenance, not miracle, in a loud century. And the mirror is an unforgiving timekeeper. See the toolkit. Vinegar of the Four Thieves, for purity, sharp and brave. Orange blossom to cheer the pulse. Lavender sachets to steady breath. Scented oils seal yesterday's, work so lace won't gossip on contact. Tooth powders, salt clove, stand by so halitosis doesn't edit the speech. Even court sanitation leans on scent when drains sulk in rain. Everything is triage, everything is theatre with receipts. Colours speak politics. A pale, even plain says, control. A restrained rouge says, vital not vulgar, at 3 paces. Roughs frame the face like quotation marks around a careful sentence. Starch stiffens the argument. Scented starch makes it likeable. That's Elizabethan cleanliness as graphic design, white space and contrast. And the audience believes, which is the entire assignment. Enter plague seasons. The room edits its breath. Windows tighten. Miasma belief picks the palette for the week. Less crowding. More pomanders. Prayers threaded through grooming rituals. Herbal remedies. Rosemary, thyme, wormwood. Smoke like stern incense. Purity here means cleverly deodorizing danger and calming the room. Elizabeth I's hygiene relocates from tub to table without apology. Servants are the unsung dermatologists of the Tudor court. They watch for septic sores, swelling a whisper of tooth. They swap linens. The second grime threatens to gossip. They know which apothecaries' shops sell safer powders. When a queen smells of rosewater, 10 hands have argued with the day. That labour is invisible in portraits. It shouldn't be here. Propaganda fastens the mask to myth. Gloriana, spotless as frost. Virgin queen iconography equals purity, equals power you can't touch. Household ordinances carve the path from box to face to throne. Ladies in waiting become editors of the nation's first draft each morning. It's royal image versus reality. But reality is a skilled collaborator. Truth doesn't vanish. It just wears better lighting at Whitehall Palace. Now touch the hinge where danger flips to wisdom for us. Modern. You doesn't need white lead, but you do need pacing. Rituals that repair, then reveal, then rest. That's timeless personal upkeep. Let clothes and airflow do half the deodorizing, before perfume tries. Borrow the discipline, not the poison. Keep the poetry, skip the rot. And next, we'll lift the curtain on court sanitation. Drains, guardrobes, and why Hampton Court sometimes smelled like a sermon with muddy boots. Step into Hampton Court at dawn, and your nose gets briefed before your eyes do. Palace smells stack in layers. Damp stone, kitchen smoke, horse, humanity. You hear buckets, rakes, and the soft slap of rushes being replaced. This is court sanitation as daily campaign, not one-time miracle. Behind the glitter sits a mop army, fighting filth with schedule and grit. And yes, you'll feel royal image versus reality tug like a mischievous page. Plumbing exists, but think threads, not highway. Moats behave like moody lungs. Cesspits need lime and prayer. Drains slope. Mostly, rain reverses their opinions enthusiastically. So Tudor engineers wage a slow war with gravity and stench. Elizabethan cleanliness means managing outflow, not pretending it vanished. You can almost hear the plan creak under wet boots. Meet the thrones behind the throne, garderobes and closed stools, stone chutes feed pits, portable chairs feed politics. The groom of the stall, yes, that job, guards access and secrets. He handles private chambers reality while guiding audiences delicately. In Elizabeth I Hygiene, intimacy equals influence. Weird but true. Wit, towels, and discretion keep the machinery human. Night soil has logistics, Entergong farmers and rakers. Under moonlight, they ferry grime out and fee in. Timing is everything. Tides, gates, neighbours who like sleeping. Lime dust floats like ghostly snow over yesterday's decisions. Remove cover, cart repeat, hygienist choreography with wheels. It's the quiet backbone of Tudor hygiene. No portrait frames. Floors help more than sermons. Rush-strewn floors trap crumbs and guilt. Swap the reeds, swap the smell. Add wormwood, thyme, mint. Deodorizing becomes landscaping your nose can applaud. You step and hear a hush that feels like housekeeping praying. Miasma belief says, bad air sickens, so air must be curated. Fresh rushes are theology with chlorophyll. Inside the private chambers, everything is triage and theatre. Bowls of vinegar of the four thieves argue with foul odours. Pomander clicks at your wrist, ambergris, civet, orange blossom. Perfumed gloves turn handshakes into tiny weather systems. Here, royal grooming disinfects reputations when drains disagree. Its scent as armour, subtle and relentless. Kitchens are glorious and dangerous in the same breath. Boiling stock perfumes the hall. Offal invites vermin to audition. Cats patrol. Boys with brooms chase fleas and crumbs into corners. Fat clogs channels. Fire unclogs it, sometimes too enthusiastically. Court sanitation posts rules. Scold, sweep, scuttle. Swear softly. When the pie sings, remember the trench did first. Water supply arrives like diplomacy. Slow, negotiated, essential. Carts, conduit cisterns and arguments about who gets the first ladle. Bathing basins empty into somewhere else, managed by somebody tired. Grey water threads through courtyards. Toward pits that need blessings, Elizabeth the Hygiene trusts cloth and order more than long baths. Basins plus towels equal civilization on busy days. Plague seasons change the script to minor key. Windows narrow. Incense thickens. Travel plans. Sprout wings. Royal progresses become deodorizing tours. Fresh air by itinerary. Theatres close. Household ordinances add clauses about breath. Elizabethan cleanliness becomes distance. Rationed bodies, curated air. You bow to space itself like it's part of etiquette. Propaganda polishes while chamberlains pay invoices. Gloriana must gleam. The pit must not interrupt the chorus. Schedules find servants. For late carts and lazy brooms. Cleanliness here is measurable. Loads hauled, pits limed, rushes replaced. Royal image versus reality is a ledger, not merely a lie. The ledger smells faintly of sour vinegar notes and pride. Listen. Candle wax glow, mop swish, bucket ring on iron hooks. Smell. Hot tallow, cold stone, powdery scent from lavender sachets. Feel. Damp in your shoes, starch bite in your collar. See. Rough edges bright as halos over tired faces. Hygiene isn't absence. It's presence of routine, bodies, courage. That's Tudor hygiene rendered in sound and steam. Take the lesson home, trimmed for modern plumbing. Clean equals system. Remove, air, replace, then perfume. Never reverse. Let fabric and airflow carry half the burden before scent speaks. Treat smell like propaganda. You write with evidence daily. That's court sanitation distilled for apartments and offices. Next, we'll open the medicine chest. Humoral theory, cures, and why rosemary and clove got to play doctor. Open the apothecary chest, and the room turns into a garden with opinions. Jars mutter wormwood, rosemary, thyme, drawers rattle with clove and salt. This is where Tudor hygiene shakes hands with medicine and myth. Physicians read you in humoral theory, hot, cold, wet, dry like weather. They prescribe balance the way stewards schedule laundry and light. And yes, Elizabeth, our hygiene is negotiated here, not just performed. First principle, don't fight the century, teach it to breathe. If the air's bad, miasma belief nods, then curate the air. Burn herbs, swing a pomander, rinse linens with vinegar that bites. Open shutters when the wind behaves, shut when plague rumours growl. Court sanitation is half airflow, half prayer, with practical shoes. You manage lungs like you manage gossip, early and often. Teeth next, because a smile is policy in portraits and arguments. No toothpaste ads, just tooth powders, salt clove and linen rubs. Rinse with wine vinegar, chase halitosis before it edits the speech. Clove numbs, salt scrubs, sage dries damp humour under the tongue. Elizabethan cleanliness puts mouth care with napkins and bowls, not doubles. The goal is diplomacy at close range, not minty theatre. Gums bleed? They call it heat or sharp humours on parade. Remedy rose lozenges, alum, water myrrh that taste like Sunday. If rot threatens you, hide it with pearls and confident vows. Remember, royal image versus reality gets negotiated at the lips. A queen can smell of rosewater and still fear tooth rot at night. That fear funds apothecaries and funds restraint at table. It's only Gordon. Skin forever, the border between legend and truth. Ointments arrive, honey, almond oil, a whisper of herbal distillates. They cool the face after yesterday's white lead, ceruse, courage. Overdo the cure, and you court corrosive sublimate in disguise. Medicine and royal grooming waltz close enough to step on toes. The trick is rhythm. Repair, reveal, rest. Repeat like breathing. Bathing exists, but thinks like a mathematician. Warm ablutions on named days, basins, towels, and patience. Add vinegar rinse if street market hours hugged you too tightly. Perfume after water, never before. Masking palace smells needs order. Elizabeth I's hygiene respect sequence. Chaos just perfumes the problem. You clean by cloth, then cure by cup, then calm by scent. Breath and chest, sudden coughs are political liabilities. Herb teas simmer, hyssop, thyme, a squeeze of lemon if trade cooperates. Steam bowls under linen tents, turn corridors into tiny spa. If fevers lurk, cool cloths and quiet rooms do more than bravado. Court sanitation relocates to private chambers when crowds misbehave. You guard the throne by guarding respiration. First, hands tell the truth faster than speeches. They show grime inks kitchen, burns from secret work. Wash basins line the route to presence, rose and orange blossom float. Perfumed gloves rescue diplomacy when drains sulk in rain. Starch, the cuffs of purity, has edges you can see. That's Elizabethan cleanliness turning fingertips into affidavits. Samaclaw, gluttony feeds doctors. Moderation feeds reputations. Broths soothe, spiced wine lies convincingly about its intentions. After heavy meat, a bite of quince paste disciplines, humours. Too much hot food, and you paint your own fevers with your fork. Tudor Hygiene includes menus. Cleanliness by spoon and season. Even Elizabeth I hygiene starts in kitchens before mirrors. Plague times rewrite the protocol in red ink. Charcoal braziers, stricter household ordinances, fewer elbows per corridor. Lavender sachets and vinegar of the four thieves become pocket armour. Progresses turn into moving bubbles of curated air and distance. Palace smells thin on roads flanked by wind and hedges. Still risky, but risk-wearing linen walks, calmer than fear, wearing noise. Head and hair have their own quiet hospitals. Comb daily, heat the teeth of the comb, recite proverbs while nitpicking. Rosemary water bristles at lice, a louse hates hot needles and patience. Wigs rest on stands, dusted with herbal remedies that offend vermin. Royal grooming here is carpentry for the scalp, measured, methodical. It's not glamorous. It works, which is a better story. Finally, soul medicine, because nerves smell too. Music in the chapel, soft light, the candle wax glow that forgives. A walk in gardens where time brushes your knees into gratitude. Peace cleans the face faster than Ceruse ever could. That's the deepest layer of Elizabeth I hygiene, composure. And from medicine we pivot to myth. How perfume and propaganda built Gloriana's aura without suffocating the truth. Step into Whitehall Palace at dusk and notice how air behaves. Before the eyes register pearls, the nose meets policy in bloom. I'm into wet, busy. A soft corridor current carries rose water and orange blossom forward. That cloud arrives half a second before the Queen by design. This is Elizabeth, I hygiene seen through aroma. Not helps. It's branding by breath, and the room believes before it thinks. Courtiers aren't just, they're orchestrated like incense. Pomander clicks at belts, little sons packed with civet and clove. Perfumed gloves, kiss knuckles, and rewrite first impressions. Lavender sachets rest inside sleeves like polite lightning. Every whiff limits palace smells that leak from kitchens and crowds. You call it perfume, they called it strategy you could inhale. Scent maps the court the way lanterns map the river. Citrus pathways mark decision zones. Resin marks not now. The Privy Gallery carries musk to slow people to listening speed. Household ordinances list who scents what, when, and how much. This is court sanitation, translated into choreography. For the nose, it's cleanliness by route planning, not miracle scrub downs. The myth machine hums under Lice, royal image making at work. Gloriana myth needs purity. You can smell from 6 paces. Virgin Queen iconography paints the air as chaste and bright. Attendants mist herbal distillates so the portrait feels moving. What you breathe is the footnote to what you see. It's royal image versus reality reconciled with a spritz. Reality, of course, keeps receipts in the laundry baskets. Sweat, rushes, kitchens, horses, palace smells have salaries and duties. Scent doesn't erase. It outruns and outframes the truth. Think PR, not Photoshop in a Tudor court with damp corridors. Elizabethan cleanliness. Here's curation, not sterilization. The miracle is sequencing. Freshen first, then enter, then speak. Supply chains whisper behind the glamour, like stagehands. Apothecaries decant scented oils into blue glass with steady hands. Apothecaries, shops barter ambergris rumours for royal coin. Gardeners nurse rosemary hedges like discreet bodyguards. And every bottle is a tiny treaty between field and throne. That treaty props up Elizabeth Thirst's hygiene without boasting. Occasions have smell tracks the way dramas have scores. Mass means frankincense. Council means lemon on linen. Petitions prefer orange blossom, so fear walks slower. Royal progresses swap city musk for hedgerow clarity. Plague seasons thicken the air with vinegar of the 4 thieves. Court sanitation becomes a portable climate that follows the crown. Perfume also disciplines distance and desire. Very politely. Too sweet and flattery sticks. Too sharp and rank feels wounded. Shameful. So, the blend aims for virtue in stereo. Warmth plus restraint. You read character by trail, cedar for sober, jasmine for hopeful. That's royal grooming as soft rhetoric for crowded rooms. Words arrive later. Scent casts the vote that counts. Ambassadors report fragrance like weather in their dispatches. Her Majesty smelled of oranges. Translates to trade winds blow fair. Frankincense heavy implies the chapel is doing foreign policy. When the mask leans resinous grief or danger may be near. Scent becomes a codebook for late 16th century negotiations. Royal image versus reality hides in adjectives, not just allegories. But scent can overreach and buy regret in tomorrow's rumour. Over-perfumed hands hint at foul odours being chased, not solved. A civet note, too bold, reads as vanity in a hungry winter. My counsel to you, let linen do half, perfume finish the sentence. That's portable Elizabethan cleanliness for modern noses. Clean first, then speak in flowers, never the reverse. Staff perform this magic with clockmaker precision. Ladies in waiting time sprays to entrances like cymbal hits. Chamberlains schedule airings, so drafts don't insult the Queen. A failed mist equals a failed meeting. Yes, it's that literal. Behind elegance live checklists, not fairy dust. This is court sanitation, disguise, as poetry and manners. And yet even perfect clouds can't fool lice or fleas forever. Perfume pacifies people. Parasites need combs, heat and patience. So while the myth floats, nitpicking continues in private chambers. That's the scene where theatre meets carpentry and wins by teamwork. We'll lift that seam next into infestations, wigs, and the harsh truth. Because the nose can be charmed, the scalp is brutally honest. Start with the truth. No scent can sugarcoat. Lice love crowns as much as subjects. You step into the private chambers and hear the thin scrape of a louse comb. Teeth warmed over coals click like tiny metal bows drawing silence taut. Rosemary smoke lifts, half chapel, half pharmacy, steadying the room. This is Elizabeth I. Hygiene as daily combat, not a static legend. And the scoreboard decides what royal image versus reality allows the eye to see. Nitpicking was public service, not insult, precision, not panic. Two ladies angle lamplight, candle wax glow pooling on a pale brow. They part the hair in ruler straight lanes, hunting nits with surgical patience. Each clean pull makes everyone in the room breathe a little easier. If the queen stays calm, the kingdom feels cleaner by reflex. Welcome to scalp diplomacy, where nerves and skill keep palace smells polite. Powders enter like tactful mediators, orris, rice, a whisper of starch. The touch stays light so sweat doesn't turn remedies into mud. Earthed oils, often orange blossom, tame flyaways and seal the edges. The air turns powdery sweet, with a back note of bitter cloves and wood smoke. You can feel Elizabethan cleanliness applied strand by strand, like penmanship. This is royal grooming that knows when to speak and when to merely smell right. Wigs weren't only theatre, they were ramparts that let skin recover. When the scalp needed rest, the peruke became a portable wall. It slept on a stand, dusted with wormwood and thyme to offend vermin. Linen liners, wicked oils, armour disguised as comfort against the day. In Tudor hygiene, fabric is a combatant. Absorb, air, repeat. And yes, these repairs happen quietly behind doors portraits never paint. Fleas wage a noisier campaign, so carpets meet sunlight like court cases. Dogs keep their distance from velvet. Benches get brushed like defendants. Seam by seam wipes with vinegar sting, but tell pests to move along. Rule 1 of court sanitation. Sweep before you perfume. Always. Only then can a glove civet note behave like punctuation, not cover up. Measured order keeps palace smells from turning into rumours with legs. Map the body, and you'll see a frontier at the neckline. Ruffs and lace become landing strips where grime likes to brag. Boil starch, swap scented starch, dry until cloth sings like frost. Nightly airing garments pulls stale breath from threads, the way truth does. Miasma fears wind and sunlight, so rods and pegs become physicians. That's Elizabeth Hygiene as hanger choreography, elegant and useful. Smell as a sensor. Salivate too loud means cause ignored, effect chased. Your mentor tip: cloth, heat, comb, then perfume. Never reverse. Work the root issue before you let orange blossom write the caption. Lavender sachets are crowns for an obedient scalp, not crutches. When the base is clean, myth needs fewer trumpets to be believed. And royal image versus reality stops arguing because reality did the work. Staff act like a rapid response unit with perfect bedside timing. A chamberlain signals: chair, towel, heated comm, no fuss, just sequence. A lady in waiting divides, captures, seals stray hairs with a clean cloth. Rebel strands meet scissors without drama. Reputation rescued in minutes. In court sanitation, seconds are worth chapters of panegyric later. Portraits hide the hustle. The day depends on it. Plague seasons flip the routine into stealth mode without warning. Fewer heads per room. Windows obey the wind's good temper only. Linen caps washed with lye soap, dried to July crispness even in March. Perukes spend time out in herb clouds, a scented quarantine. Household ordinances add clauses for fingers, combs, and distance. Elizabethan cleanliness becomes an audit. You can pass or fail. The scalp also tattles on diet and humours, whether you ask or not. Too much hot in the mix, rick meats, poor sleep, and itching votes, nay. Broth, bitter greens and rest. Pull the shine back to reasonable. Humoral theory isn't science forward, yet balance often cleans by accident. Meanwhile, tooth powders, salt clove, keep breath from picking fights with combs. Whole body upkeep makes better hair politics than powders alone. Before audience, a brisk comb. After, a thorough washing of hands and tools. Perfumed gloves earn entrance only when the scalp is peaceful. Amanda ticks at the wrist like a metronome for composure. If the nape itches, the agenda pivots. Retouch, breathe, return to business. Royal image versus reality wins when reality moves faster than gossip. That friend is Elizabeth I. Hygiene, doing live editing without applause. Take the portable lesson home, modern plumbing and all. Pick simple tools that don't ask permission. Comb, heat, clean cloth. Let perfume be the caption, not the headline. Let linen do half the work. Schedule your own nitpicking. Review, air, adjust before the day goes public. It's Tudor Hygiene without lead in the kit. Grace with receipts attached. Next, we'll step down from hair to whole skin. Cracks, ceruse, and how to repair without making the cure the new disease. The door closes on the private chambers, and the body finally speaks. Beneath pearls and speeches, skin keeps the real minutes of the day. Heat, starch, lace, and nerves write tiny fissures across the cheeks. You can smell work beneath perfume, those stubborn palace smells of life. This is Elizabeth I. Hygiene at touch range. Less myth, more maintenance. And the tug-of-war of royal image versus reality begins with pour. Washing is a verb with commas, not exclamation points. Warm cloth rosewater and deliberate ablutions sweep the night away. No plunge into tubs. Tudor Hygiene prefers gentle, frequent freshening. Dry, then oil lightly so the face remembers it's allowed to breathe. That rhythm, cleanse, calm, protect, is Elizabethan cleanliness in motion. You keep ceremony, yes, but you keep the skin too. Removal is chemistry, reapplication is diplomacy with the mirror. Wiped lid, ceruse, lifts yesterday's legend. Almond oil lifts a ceruse. Over clean, and you carve skin cracks the powder can't forgive. Some reach for corrosive sublimate, swift help that bites back later. So you measure your weight, you let herbal distillates settle pride. Repair, reveal, rest, the quiet trinity of royal grooming. Balms arrive like counsellors, with good bedside manners. Beeswax, honey, and almond soothe the map of tiny storms. A breath of lavender or orange blossom rides the ointment's edge. Physicians mutter humoral theory. The skin answers with peace. You can't outshout winter. You moisturize it into cooperation. That's Elizabeth Hygiene translated into texture and time. Hands betray what speeches hide. Ink smudges, cold, and ceremony. Lye and water scrub. Rosewater returns diplomacy to the palms. Perfumed gloves mask ink's afterthought and keep edges civilized. Vinegar rinses tidy the cuticles. Salt polishes quiet moons. Elizabethan cleanliness treats fingers as emissaries with passports. Each handshake is a treaty. The skin must sign. Cloth matters as much as balm linen is the daily bodyguard. Fresh linen shift sips sweat. Stays and farthingale chafe less. Powdered starch on ruffs stays off the collarbone when aired. Airing garments nightly unhooks miasma from tired threads. That's Tudor Hygiene by wardrobe. Absorb, replace, breathe, repeat. Skin thanks textiles long before it thanks perfume. Rash and rub arrive at the borders, elbow, waist, heel. Wormwood and thyme poultices argue pain into smaller sentences. Wine vinegar rinse cools where Lice has lectured too long. If septic sores threaten, bed rest outranks rhetoric. Court sanitation moves to the mattress with sheets changed like pages. Nothing looks royal if friction wins the argument. Sweat is not a sin, it's a conversation you moderate. Pomander hums at the wrist. Musk and ambergris edit the air. But first, the cloth must work, or perfume shouts over truth. Occasional baths happen. Screened, scheduled, carefully warmed. Basil or rosemary steep. The steam writes, calm on the brow. That's Elizabeth Dye Hygiene. Practical before dramatic. Seasons draft the skincare notes by royal decree. Whitehall's damp begs oils. Hampton Court's frost begs balm. Summer thins powders. Winter fattens ointments and sleeves. Plague months demand deodorizing more than decoration. Elizabethan cleanliness is seasonal strategy, not static habit. You read weather, the way you read faces. Fast and kind. Morning is choreography. Servants keep time like a small orchestra. A lady warms the cloth. Another checks the linen ledger. The chirp of a box clasp. The sigh of starch. Audible order. Household ordinances script every bottle and bowl. By hour. Royal grooming is logistics in silk shoes, not mere vanity. When order holds, the day remembers its manners. Propaganda frames the glow. Portraits swear the myth is clean. But paint can't print scent, and audiences stand near skin. So royal image versus reality narrows when touch agrees with sight. While touch will date walls. Court sanitation underwrites elegance, the way beams underwrite halls. You leave the room smelling like control, not cover-up. And the nose approves the policy before the ear hears it. Take the portable lesson. Let fabric and airflow do half the work. Clean, first then calm, then scent. Never reverse the verbs. Call it ablutions or reset. But keep the rhythm gentle. Elizabeth I. Hygiene is a routine, not a miracle. Copy the routine. Your skin remembers kindness longer than makeup remembers you. Next, we zoom out to space itself. Bedchambers, attendants, and how privacy policed purity when the corridor would. You reach the velvet threshold and feel the air change temperature. Beyond this door, private chambers are not rooms, they're instruments. Every hinge, cushion and curtain is tuned to choreograph bodies and breath. Here, Elizabeth I. Hygiene becomes logistics. Who brings water? Who removes it? Court sanitation is scheduled like prayer, and missing your slot smells. Welcome to the quiet factory that makes royal image versus reality. Agree. First the map. Presence chamber for show, privy chamber for work, bedchamber for recovery, closets for the tools of royal grooming. A narrow service corridor hums with basins and whispers. Attendants move like punctuation, pausing, clarifying, cutting excess. This layout disciplines palace smells and uninvited egos alike. You'll learn a palace is cleanest where it's best at saying, no. Etiquette is the soap here. Access washes reputations as surely as water. A lady in waiting logs linens like a scribe, logs treaties. The linen shift count is policy, not laundry day trivia. Wrong fabric at the wrong hour is a rumour with sleeves. Elizabethan cleanliness begins with a list before a ladle. That list decides whose hands become part of the Queen's skin. Morning rehearsal starts with heat and silence. Braziers, warmed cloths. A bowl steams. Rosewater waits. Towels stack like gentle arguments. You stand 2 steps back. because breath is rationed near the face. Royal grooming happens at the speed of trust, one gesture at a time. If a hinge creaks, oil answers. If a draft lies, curtains correct it. Tudor hygiene is choreography long before it is chemistry. Beds are fortresses with storybook manners, hung, laced, and defended. Feather mattresses breathe. Sheets rotate like soldiers on sentry duty. Rugs absorb footprints that corridors don't need to overhear. Airing garments hangs along rafters like small white pennants. Heat pans walk the mattress so damp never earns a vote. That's Elizabeth by Hygiene, making sleep smell like order. Water doesn't just appear, it petitions the door like everyone else. Pitchers arrive, capped their heat owned by the minute and the task. Spillage is politics, cloths fly, not to hide shame, but to stop stench. Used basins exit as quietly as secrets worth keeping. Court sanitation is removal with dignity, always before scent. Cleanliness here is an invisible parade that leaves no tracks. Noise is managed because sound carries palace smells in people's minds. Soft-soled shoes, folded speech lids that close without punctuation. You hear the clink of a pomander like a metronome for pulse. A glove brushes a ruff. Starch whispers that everything fits. These micro sounds say, "We have this under control." They turn royal image versus reality into a believable duet. Gatekeepers read faces the way. Physicians read tongues. A chamberlain decides who gets linen time and who gets air time. Ladies enforce distance without making distance feel like exile. They edit minutes so the Queen's hours smell like decisions, not crowds. This is Elizabethan cleanliness as calendar, discipline. Access is granted in inches, purity is protected by schedule. Odor strategy lives in bowls and bundles. Lavender sachets, wormwood. Vinegar bowls sip bad air in corners where windows sock. Wayne bullies the drains. Perfumed gloves rescue diplomacy, but scent follows cloth. It never leads it in this room. That's the first law of Tudor hygiene, with a door that locks. Masking without cleaning is comedy. Nobody laughs at twice. Sick days rewrite the music. Fewer feet, more pauses between breaths. Humoral theory adjusts the menu. Herbal remedies replaced bravado. Household ordinances add clauses for coughs and courage. Sheets change faster. Windows negotiate with the wind anew. Court sanitation migrates into the bed like a quiet physician. Elizabeth Thursday hygiene becomes mercy with excellent paperwork. Royal progresses test the system at speed. Cleanliness on wheels. Tents, borrowed rooms, temporary motes of polite moving air. The same rules travel. Remove, air, replace, and then perfume. Attendants become architects of portable Elizabethan cleanliness. They tune strangers' houses to the Queen's breathing rate. And the countryside learns to respect a checklist more than a title. Now your takeaway, because you live in rooms that also judge you. Design your private chambers with boundaries that clean you. Entry rules. Let fabric and airflow carry half the burden before scent speaks. Treat routines as gatekeepers. Let access schedule your energy. That's Elizabeth Firth. Hygiene you can deploy in a studio apartment. Next we'll look outward. Corridors, kitchens, and the rumour weather that tries to undo all this good work by lunchtime. Step out of the private chambers and the palace changes its voice. Ishike. Corridors breathe like bellows. Torch heat, candle wax glow, damp stone. Footmen sweep in crescents and rush-strewn floors hush the gossip. Here, court sanitation isn't abstract. It squeaks, scrubs, and schedules. The nose becomes the usher that seats you before rank even tries. And royal image versus reality negotiates hour by hour with airflow. Crowd days are weather events. Whitehall turns into a lung with nerves. Petitioners bring wool, dogs and rumours. Kitchens add steam and triumph. Mint and wormwood underfoot duel the palace smells of humanity. Herb baskets hang at doorheads like small green policemen. If the corridor smells organised, the politics likely are too. That's Elizabethan cleanliness you can read without a single word. Listen. Bells call water. Bucket rings click like prudent metronomes. Steward marks the map, who washes where, and who doesn't. Basins appear at choke points, towels folded like diplomatic letters. You rinse, you bow, you proceed. Order perfumes itself. This is Tudor Hygiene as choreography, not panic. And it keeps Elizabeth I hygiene believable beyond the portrait frame. Now the kitchens, glorious monsters with generous hearts. Fires roar, spits turn. Fat argues with gravity and wins sometimes. Sweet and sour rise together. Quince paste and singed goose skin. Cats patrol, boys chase crumbs. Lime scolds the drain. Court sanitation pins rules to beams. Scald, sweep, air, then season. Because palace smells travel faster than compliments when Greece forgets. Water logistics are a palace's love language, measured in steps. Cistern to kettle, kettle to basin, basin to nowhere, but managed. Spillage is politics. A towel thrown fast can save a meeting later. Grey water moves like a quiet parade toward pits that behave. You're watching Elizabethan cleanliness argue successfully with mud. And royal grooming wins, only because this floor already did. Dining passages are olfactory borderlands where image is plated. Platters sail through air, tuned by lavender sachets and open windows. If miasma belief says bad air corrupts, then good air is policy. Vent hatches open on cue. Smoke takes rehearsed exits. A clean corridor tells guests how to interpret the feast. That's Elizabeth I. Hygiene coaching your appetite without words. Security smells too. Guards read odour like they read faces. Faint vinegar of the Four Thieves. Someone is worried wisely. Too much civet at the door. Cover up or an amateur. Even perfumed gloves must match the hour's temperament. You see how royal image versus reality can misfire by the nose. One whiff off script, and confidence steps back half a pace. Apothecaries haunt these routes like discreet meteorologists. They test the air, adjust blends, and whisper herbal remedies. Rosewater cools tempers near council. Orange lifts the waiting room. Musk slows traffic, where patients must look beautiful. This is royal grooming leaked into architecture kindly. And it keeps Tudor hygiene from becoming only a laundry story. Parasites hate parades of light and heat, so windows matter. Sun knifes across benches, seams get a vinegar swipe. Benches rest outdoors like soldiers, cushions air like confessions. Airing garments isn't domestic. It's public diplomacy with cloth. When fabrics breathe, people forgive. When they don't, they plot. Court sanitation understands psychology long before pamphlets. Dewat. Ceremony makes scent its prologue. Trumpets, then citrus. The Queen's path is pre-spritzed, then kept clear by polite elbows. Crowds are staged to smell approval, not impatience. If palace smells, rise wrong, a steward redirects the current. You're watching Elizabethan cleanliness conduct a human orchestra, and the music sounds like order, which looks like power. Plague seasons retune the corridor to minor key immediately. Fewer bodies per yard. Shutters obey the wind like scripture. Incense thickens, and household ordinances add new clauses. Royal progresses pivot to hedgerows and fresher maps of air. Even the kitchens stand farther from the throat of the hall. Elizabeth the farce. Hygiene becomes distance with manners, not fear with drama. Take this home. Hallways tell on you. Curate your thresholds. Remove first air second, replace third scent last, every time. Let fabric and light do half of cleanliness before soap arrives. If you control transitions rooms, behave kindly to your plans. That's Tudor hygiene for offices, studios, families, portable and sane. Next we follow the court outside, royal progresses, roadside lodgings, and how a moving palace tried to smell like one. The map opens like a fan, and the court starts walking. Royal progresses are moving laboratories of Elizabeth I hygiene. Villages blink, hedgerows bow, and inns learn new manners overnight. You can hear logistics breathing, wagons, laundresses, coopers, cooks. Palace smells risk following, unless the plan outruns them. This is Tudor hygiene on wheels, cleanliness by mileage and schedule. First rule, remove before you arrive. Scouts clear rooms of stowaway odors. Windows open, rushes out, smoke convinced to leave by polite threats. Fresh herbs, wormwood, mint, go down like a green carpet of apologies. Airing racks pop up in courtyards like travelling forests. The nose arrives first, decides if the welcome is real. Elizabethan cleanliness begins with air, then furniture, then people. Water becomes a timetable, not a convenience. Carts roll from streams to kettles to private chambers quietly. Hot basins meet towels with the choreography of a string quartet. Spillage is politics. A fast cloth saves a slow apology. You're watching court sanitation act like stagehands with halos. Royal grooming works only because the corridor already behaved. Linens are the shock troops. Chests of linen shifts like white brigades. Clean, by changed scales, beautifully when plumbing. Doesn't travel. Shirts sip sweat. Sheets trap miasma. Everything airs at dusk. Farthingale and ruff get scented starch that says we're organised. Herb bundles hang inside wardrobes like discreet bodyguards. That's Elizabeth, their hygiene measured in threads per mile. Perfume turns into signage the countryside can read. A hint of rose water announces authority without shouting. Perfumed gloves convert handshakes into brief, fragrant treaties. Pomanders click like metronomes for the Queen's pulse. Scent never leads cloth. It completes the sentence cloth began. Royal image versus reality meets halfway in a breezy doorway. Kitchens pitch tents, and the wind negotiates with the menu. Smokestacks where stewards point, not where chance prefers. Grease traps become trenches. Lime keeps drains from sulking. Cats earn wages. Boys rake crumbs before rumour wakes. This is court sanitation, translated into pegs, hooks, lists, and it keeps palace smells from writing the first. Crowd control is smell control, wearing a polite smile. Less wool indoors, more gardens between petitioners and air. Baskets of vinegar of the four thieves sip corners into calm. Musk slows impatient corridors. Citrus lends courage to tongues. Ambassadors sniff policy even before the speech starts. Elizabethan cleanliness is public relations your lungs can trust. Parasites travel too, so discipline travels harder. Comb teeth warmed over embers click like tiny sword drills. Perukes rest nightly in wormwood fogs. Caps bake dry as July. Benches sun themselves. Cushions earn parole by noon. Documents say progress, but the scalp says patrol. That's Tudor hygiene doing security at the hairline. Money smells literally, so budgets learn deodorizing math. Soap, starch, herbs, vinegar, all line items with trumpets. Household ordinances count towels like accountants, count oaths. Waste removed on time beats eloquence later by a mile. Receipts, not rumours, keep royal grooming affordable and real. Cleanliness without a ledger is wishful perfume. Local hosts play their part. Image is a two-way candle. Halls get swept louder. Wells get bragged about modestly. A borrowed bed learns court posture. Aired, warmed, dressed twice. Hosts offer rosemary. The crown offers gratitude that smells like order. Royal image versus reality turns cooperative when checklists match. Villages remember the breeze long after the banners leave. Sickness edits everything instantly. Fewer noses per room, windows obey the wind like scripture. Incense thickens, schedule thins, musicians learn softer keys. Progress pauses until air behaves, or road widens the breath. Elizabeth a farce, hygiene becomes mercy wrapped in protocol. The myth survives because the body is allowed to. Bring it home, travel with a portable ritual, not a panic. Remove air, replace then perfume. 4 verbs that tame hotels. Let linen and light do half the job before bottles try. Treat thresholds like valves that decide your day's weather. That's Elizabethan cleanliness, scaled to backpacks and deadlines. Next we'll step into rumour, weather, pamphlets, portraits, and how complaints about smell became weapons in political hands. Open a pamphlet, and you can smell the ink, argue. Cheap paper, sharp type, a bite like vinegar of the 4 thieves. Writers weaponize air. Stench at Whitehall, miasma at court. They know noses remember longer than eyes do. This is royal image versus reality fought with adjectives and sighs. And yes, Elizabeth. Our hygiene must counter-punch without sounding sweaty. Opponents aim below the crown, at drains, dogs, and palace smells. They describe filth, grime, and foul odours as policy failures. A jab at court. Sanitation doubles as a jab at statecraft. If halls reek, can laws hold? The pamphlet winks. It's propaganda by nostril, calibrated for tavern retellings. And rumour travels faster than any royal progress cart. Portraits answer with light, lace, and breathable calm. Elizabethan cleanliness is painted as frost that never cracks. Royal grooming becomes a halo, rough sprite, pearls cool as noon. You almost hear rosewater in the varnished citrus in the glaze. The image says, order smells like this, without a caption. Paint can't kill odors, but it can neutralize the story. Printers know the market for decay is evergreen. They sell halitosis jokes, lice cartoons, and Cirou's secret. Venetian whiteness gets framed as vanity with tooth rot within. They mix half-truth with slapstick until memory sticks. In the margin, someone doodles a pomander with devil horns. Snickers beats sermons in a tight news cycle, even in 1590. The Crown replies with choreography. The press can't print. Open windows on cue, lavender sachets at pinch points. Perfumed gloves that turn handshakes into counter-narratives. A corridor tuned to lemon reads like competence in stereo. That's soft power. Tudor Hygiene as daily, nose-level fact. Facts repeated quietly outlast sarcasm shouted once. Ambassadors file weather reports that outvote broadsides. Air at Hampton Court notably sweet, one dispatch murmurs. Her Majesty's breath of orange translates to stable trade winds. When foreign pens praise, smell pamphlets look provincial. Elizabeth Hygiene plays the long game with other capitals' noses. It's geopolitics in candle wax glow and subtle musk. Still, a single stench can flip a week of good press. Kitchen flare-ups, flooded drains, or summer crowds too thick. Cue the checklist: remove, air, replace, then scent. Never reverse. Court sanitation fixes the cause while royal grooming calms the scene. You don't argue with rumour. You make the corridor breathe better. Air that behaves is the best op-ed. Nobody quotes. Sermons join the fray, equating purity with actual cleanliness. Clean, bless, rushes and skull decay with equal gusto. Clean hands, clean hearts, they say, helpfully on brand. The palace leans in. Basins at doors, towels folded like doctrine. Elizabethan cleanliness becomes moral architecture you can touch. And the flock inhales the point before the amen. Satire bites hardest at cosmetics, ceruse, rouge, corrosive sublimate. Pamphlet sneers, painted face, painted virtue. Countermove, publish portraits with softer whites, more linen. Let private chambers rituals leak. Ablutions, tooth powders, salt clove, totter. Show repair, not just radiance. Human beats marble every time. Royal image versus reality narrows when care is visible. Progresses act like press tours for the nose. Air, herb-strewn halls, open river light. Villagers remember orange blossom, drifting before speeches. Pamphleteers arrive late and find the breeze already loyal. That's Elizabeth by Hygiene done in public, not in prose. And rumour lacks oxygen, where windows make friends. Behind the scenes, clerks track air like treasurers, track coin. Notes on drafts, drains, miasma pockets, and linen rotations. When a broadsheet barks, the ledger shows last week's fixes. Receipts beat rhetoric, schedules beat snark. This is court sanitation with footnotes that actually smell better. Numbers carry perfume when they arrive on time. Your takeaway for modern rumour weather is tidy. Don't debate stink, remove it. Air first, then linen, then scent. Let rooms behave, and let people notice without your speech. That's portable Tudor hygiene for offices, events and homes. If image wobbles, show the routine, not the poster. Next will follow the money. Apothecaries, laundresses, and the economy of keeping a myth from rotting. Open the ledger and you'll hear it breathe, paper warm from hands. Ink ticks like a clock, columns line up like drilled pikemen. This is Elizabeth hygiene in numbers. Soap, starch, wood, water. Court sanitation becomes arithmetic. Palace smells become invoices. You can perfume a rumour, sure, but you must pay a bill. And every receipt argues with royal image versus reality in neat italics. Start with liquids that act like letters of marque. Distillates, tinctures, oils. Rose water needs petals. Copper stills fuel, and a patient night. Vinegar of the four thieves gulps. Spices priced like gossip. Ambergris and civet arrive with taxes baked into the scent. Apothecaries stamp their wax. The steward stamps his temper. Elizabethan cleanliness costs because scarcity is an expensive cologne. Linen is the real treasury, not jewels. Count the linen shifts, ruffs, sheets. Frequent changes mean carts, lines, soap and wages with blisters. Lice soap bites fingers, alum and bluing bite the purse. Stoves sip wood all winter just to dry a myth to crispness. When the collar gleams, thank 5 coins you didn't see leave. That's Tudor hygiene as logistics disguised in lace. Follow the money down the service. Stare, laundresses, starchers, carrier. They earn in shillings and soreness, timed by the sun and steam. Starchers by wheat, They never eat. Laundresses boil rumors clean. Carriers walk water in circles until corridors behave. Wages ripple into markets. Soap, brooms, herbs, second boots. Royal grooming spends locally, even when the scent smells foreign. Kitchens burn silver, as well as wood when drains misbehave. Lime buckets, bribes to the weather. Choose two, pay all three. Grease traps cost less than scandal. Everyone learns the math. A single flood multiplies candles, towels, and apologies. Court sanitation is cheapest when it's on time. Every time. Late cleaning is the most expensive perfume on earth. Now, peek into apothecaries' shops. Blue glass, brass scoops, quiet ambition. Ceruse labelled Venetian wears a price like a crown. Mercury hides in euphemism. Arsenic wears a foreign accent. The best sellers are Patience and Placebo in pretty jars. Invoices say, beauty footnotes whisper, risk management. Royal image versus reality negotiates at the counter daily. Supply is politics. Bad harvest, when starch grows rare and tempers loud. War at sea. Citrus thins, orange blossom gets theoretical. Plague. Prices. Climb stairs faster than servants can. Progresses, shift spending into hedgerows and borrowed wells. Every mile adds soap and vinegar, subtracts theatre. That's Elizabeth the Hygiene as an itinerant economy. Audits have noses. A page dated wet means water spent late. A dry stamp smells like order. Remove, air, replace, then scent. Stewards find, delay. Fines fund towels, clean karma. Household ordinances turn chores into law with signatures. Receipts become choreography. The palace dances on count. Elizabethan cleanliness works because arithmetic learned to sing. Even privacy pays wages. Private chambers need gatekeepers. Clean room is 3 salaries and a lock that listens. Basins don't empty themselves. They hire discretion nightly. Airing garments needs rafters, not hope. Rafters need carpenters. Every quiet luxury has a noisy invoice in daylight. Royal grooming smiles because numbers kept their promises. Propaganda budgets are real budgets. Portraits aren't cheap soap. Painters bill for light that smells like rosewater when dry. Costumers bill for ruffs that refuse miasma politely. Printers bill for pamphlets that argue the air is loyal. When the myth looks clean, an army of coins stood still first. Royal image versus reality balances because ledgers decide to part. Waste management is where thrift becomes heroism. Night soil hauled on schedule saves candles later. Rushes replaced on time save perfume by the pound. 1 broom early beats 100 pomanders late. Court sanitation is preventive medicine with a mop. The nose smiles cheapest when the bucket arrives first. Your takeaway. Elegance is a budget-wearing manners. Pay the cause, not the cover. Fund airflow before fragrance. Let linen and light do half the labour. Let scent do the credits. That's portable Tudor hygiene for studios and boardrooms. If you can read a receipt, you can read a myth. Next will cost a single day, hour by hour, so you can feel the coins move with the combs and cups. Dawn snaps the rafters awake. Fires are bribed back to life. Scullions shoulder wood. Water carriers count steps like coins. Your nose finds damp stone. Then the candle wax glow, warming it. This is court sanitation, before anyone smiles in Latin. Buckets, brooms, and breath rehearse the day's choreography. The budget starts here, in silence, not in scent. 6 o'clock. Linen parade, Linen shifts, sheets, ruffs in white battalions. Laundresses tally, starch alum, lye soap, bluing, and sore hands. Fresh cloth equals bathed in Tudor Hygiene mathematics. Wind becomes staff, lines become ledgers strung across courtyards. Every snap of sun-dried fabric pays a hidden invoice. Elizabethan cleanliness is arithmetic, disguised as laundry music. 7. Door closes on private chambers, steam writes cursive on glass. Warm rose water, careful ablutions, towels folded like diplomacy. Combines cost time. Time costs wages, wages buy composure. Royal grooming moves at the speed of trust and cloth. You can smell policy settling over the basin, calm and citrus. Elizabeth I, Hygiene starts, earning belief one warm cloth at a time. 8. Scalp logistics, comb teeth heated, nitpicking done like surgery. A wisp of rosemary smoke, then scented oils to seal truce. Peruke snap on stands, dusted with wormwood and thyme. Parasites hate routine more than they hate sermons. The bill here is fuel, hands, herb bundles, and minutes. That payment keeps palace smells from becoming policy problems. 9. Corridors inhale, crowds will shortly test the plumbing. Rush-strewn floors get fresh blades and mint to police edges. Basins appear at choke points, towels like signed letters. Court sanitation sings, remove air, replace, then perfume. Skip a verse, and rumour writes the chorus for you. Even the hinges learn to close without punctuation. 10. First audience, powder, then presents, never the reverse. Perfumed gloves translate handshakes into tiny treaties. Pomander clicks at the wrist, a metronome for nerves. Too loud buys regret in tomorrow's pamphlet. Orange blossom, timed right buys patience from a hostile lobby. This is royal image versus reality negotiated in breath and inches. Midday, kitchens thunder, the ledger sweats with the spits. Goose skin sings, grease tests drains, lime rehearses discipline. Cats patrol, boys rake crumbs, vinegar scolds seams. If palace smells, Serge the steward finds the hour, not the cook. Policy tastes clean, only when the scullery paid first. That's Elizabethan cleanliness plated under the sauce. 2. Laundry round 2. Post-banquet triage and future calm. Ruffs unhooked, scented starch boiled, until cloth remembers posture. Airing garments on rafters evacuates miasma politely. Ledger's note, dry by vespers, or tomorrow, buys extra perfume. Fabric is cheaper than myth, myth is cheaper than scandal. Choose the first two, and save yourself speeches. 4. Apothecary hour, bottles, risks, and necessary theatre. Rosewater reordered, vinegar of the four thieves for crowded days. Venetian ceruse, debated, then rationed by common sense. A dab of musk, not a sermon. Lavender, where patience thins. Invoices stamped, warnings initialed about cosmetic poisoning. Elizabeth I's Hygiene walks the line, eyes open, purse in hand. 6. Vespers and supper, music, candles, and nose-level politics. Vent hatches open on cue, smoke exits like trained geese. Platters cross air, already rehearsed to smell like order. Court sanitation. Did the miracle, so charm can pretend to. If the corridor breathes, a speech lands without coughing. Grace costs wood vinegar and excellent timing. Night soil and closure. Buckets, lime, respectable invisibility. Garderobes sigh toward pits. Rakers earn the kingdom's quiet. Floors lose their rushes. Corners win back their shadows. Counts close. Towels counted, herbs tallied, drains approved. Numbers smell faintly of sour vinegar notes and victory. Day ends when silence stops trying to explain itself. Midnight. Reflection. What did the air remember about you? Did linen carry half the labour before perfume spoke? Did royal grooming follow cleaning, or try to substitute for it? If the answer's rhythm, you bought tomorrow cheap. If the answer's shortcuts, rumour wakes earlier than you. Next, we zoom into the bedside. Sleep rituals, night watches, and how dreams kept the mask from cracking before dawn. You reach the bed, and the room exhales. Curtains like soft lungs. Feather mattress lifts your weight. Ticking whispers under linen. Azure fades to ember. Notes giving the air a polite spine. Here, Elizabeth I, hygiene becomes hush. No speeches, only sequence. Private chambers turn into a clinic of quiet, cotton, and habit. And royal image versus reality rests on whether sleep behaves. Beds are architecture. Ropes tightened, mattresses fluffed like winter clouds. Sheets changed by the ledger, not by whim. Cleanliness you can audit. A warmed pan traces circles, evicting damp like a lawyer. Pillows smell faintly of lavender sachets and sun-dried patience. This is Elizabethan cleanliness in cotton, not rhetoric. You'll lie down on policy, made of thread, not ink. Before sleep, the last ablutions read like a short prayer. Warm cloth to face, rose water, pass a dab of almond for the cracks. Hands washed to the wrist, rings off so metal, doesn't bully skin. A linen towel receives the day's grease, like a loyal scribe. That's royal grooming at its gentlest, repair over display. And yes, even queens chase hydration with cup and custard. Breath matters. Breath is politics at 6 inches. Quick tooth powders, salt, clove, polish, a wine vinegar, rinse. Nothing theatrical, just war on halitosis before dreams. Mouths tell on people faster than portraits ever do. Tudor Hygiene parks dignity in the palate. Overnight. You sleep easier when your own breath agrees with you. Odor strategy goes on night duty silent and stubborn. A shallow bowl of vinegar off the Four Thieves sips corners. Curtains part, a finger's width, so miasma's drama can leave. Rushes fresh underfoot, keep palace smells at the moat. This is court sanitation, minus trumpets. Remove air, replace. Perfume sleeps, airflow works the graveyard shift. The night watch is choreography with soft souls. A chamberlain listens to hinges, a maid rotates the brazier. Water jugs stay capped. Slushing is a rumour with feet. Closed stalls are emptied like secrets. Fast, invisible, true. You're watching Elizabeth I Hygiene as theatre, without an audience. Cleanliness wins when no one has to clap. Dream maintenance sounds grand. It's just nervous systems done right. Fevers need fewer blankets. Chills need more stories and broth. Physicians mutter humoral theory and leave honey by the bed. Rosemary tucked in the pillow tells storms to try elsewhere. Here oil image versus reality borrows from nurses, not poets. Sleep is the cheapest cosmetic, the ledger nods. Hair and scalp rest under linen caps that drink what the day left. Perukes sleep upright in wormwood fog like soldiers at ease. With soldiers at ease. Combs warm on the hearth for tomorrow's first patrol. No one brags about this. They just avoid infestation. Tudor Hygiene. As patients, comb, heat, cloth, repeat. By morning, even nerves will untie a small knot. Hands remember work even when the mind forgets. A smear of beeswax at the knuckles, a whisper of scented oils. Splinters of ceremony, ink ghosts, all softened back to skin. Elizabethan cleanliness treats touch as a public document. If palms are calm, greetings will be too. You're investing in tomorrow's handshake with tonight's balm. Noise management is part of purity. Ask any insomniac queen. Latches, padded floorboards, taught to behave, lids that close like sentences. The clink of pomander goes silent. Citrus sleeps till morning. You measure quiet, the way you measured starch at noon. Court sanitation includes sound, because sound escorts smell. Even silence is groomed to pass inspection. Sickness rewrites the lullaby without asking permission. Fires moved, beds angled to spare lungs their own weather. Household ordinances flip to crisis mode with soft authority. Windows negotiate, attendants trade shifts like chess pieces. Elizabeth I, hygiene becomes mercy wrapped in linen and timing. Fewer visitors, more air, fewer words, that's care. Take this home, make night time a routine that edits daylight's errors. First then cloth, then balm. Perfume last, or not at all. Let your bed do half of personal upkeep with fabric and order. Treat quiet as a cleanser and darkness as a moisturizer. That's Elizabethan cleanliness you can scale to a studio apartment. And at first light, the mask wakes. Powder, politics and corridors, waiting to test whether rest actually held. Begin with a paradox you can smell. The palace owns water, yet distrusts the tub. Physicians whisper that pores open like city gates under warm steam. Tudor Hygiene nods and keeps full bathing rare, strategic and scripted. Cloths, basins and frequent linen changes carry most of the load. Still, sometimes the ledger authorizes an actual bath. Quiet, guarded. That moment tests royal image versus reality more than any portrait does. Picture the set, a screened corner in the private chambers, braziers steady. A copper tub, lined with sheets so metal won't bully skin. Steam braided with rosemary and thyme climbs to the rafters. Attendants time the heat like musicians counting. Rests. Elizabeth I's hygiene becomes a slow choreography of water and cloth. And palace smells surrender for once without needing a treaty. Security wraps the whole scene in velvet caution. Doors stand at half latch. The night watch memorizes footsteps. Basins and jugs arrive, capped, escorted like dignitaries. Village is politics. Towels fly. Before news does. What leaves the room must leave without a scent or a rumour. That's court sanitation as discretion more upholstery than trumpet. The recipe reads like a small garden in a book of hours. A scoop of rosewater, a squeeze of citrus if ships were kind this month. Vinegar tempered into the bath to tame stale corridors. Herbal sachets, lavender, wormwood, float like polite bouncers. Inside the steam, you hear linen softening its daily sermon. Elizabethan cleanliness hums. The body finally stops bargaining. Immersion stays brief. The century dislikes long arguments with heat. After minutes, attendants pivot to warm cloths and gentle ablutions. Drying is a ceremony. Press, don't rub. Lift, don't scrape. Almond oil negotiates with skin that learned starch too well. Then comes the clean linen shift, cool as early light. Royal grooming continues only after the water has told its truth. Bathhouses. They exist and raise eyebrows like taverns do. Common rooms for steam and gossip, shuttered quickly in plague. Seasons by Queen meets water privately. A city meets water communally. The state prefers tubs it can supervise with a ledger, not a whistle. So Elizabeth the hygiene favours portable purity over public soap to eye. Clean by cloth. Proves cheaper, safer, easier to audit. The tub is also a clock that charges by the minute. Bell-devoured servants, borrowed stairs negotiated, corridors courted. Heated water must win its race with cooling air and waiting tasks. When warmth falters, palace smells volunteer for a comeback tour. Hence the focus on sequence. Remove, air, replace, then bathe. Mistime it, and royal image versus reality fogs back over. Enter humoral theory, holding a towel like a law book. Hot, cold, wet, dry. Balance is the throne the body wants. Cold drafts after hot baths are villains with fast horses. So rooms close their throats. Curtains cut the air like hands. Wine or spiced broth escorts the pulse back to steady. You can feel Tudor hygiene managing weather inside a body. Risk writes its own margins, slips, chills or overzealous scrub. Skin already wearing ceruse resents sudden zeal from soap. So water avoids the painted face. The face gets its own slow peace. Combs warm near coals. Hair dries under linen caps, not wind. Wigs stand aside in wormwood fog, like soldiers at ease. Everything that gets wet must also be made quiet again. Cost makes a cameo with coins in both hands. Wood for heat, herbs for scent, wages for time, and towels. Apothecaries' shops charge in drama, laundresses charge in truth. The bill for one bath could fund a week of spotless linen. The steward chooses what keeps Thursday calm and Friday printable. So Elizabethan cleanliness keeps immersion as a cameo, not the star. Afterbath is the part the portraits never paint. Damp must flee. Rafters host an airing garments parade. Basins exit like secrets. Floors learn dryness the hard way. Court sanitation signs off only when the room smells like plans again. Then scent returns. Citrus, rose water, a restrained must. Royal grooming resumes, now working with, not against the skin. Your takeaway for modern rooms, with easier pipes. Respect sequence. Air first, water second, linen third, perfume last, always in that order. Treat tubs as strategy, not reflex. Let fabric and light do half the job. If the bath is theatre, the backstage is where cleanliness actually wins. That's Elizabeth of hygiene you can steal without a copper tub or a crown. Next we face sickness head-on, quarantines, plague rooms, and how a palace taught fear to stand 6 feet back. You wake to bells that don't sound like court music. Short, dry, persuasive. Plague season has redrawn the floor plan with invisible ink. Corridors thin, elbows learn manners, even whispers keep their distance. This is Elizabeth I hygiene turned strategic defense, not pageantry. The goal isn't panic, it's posture, make danger walk, not sprint. And you'll hear it in the hush before any latch is lifted. Rules arrive first, wrapped in parchment and soft authority. Household ordinances add clauses for coughs, fever, and traffic. Hands wash before thresholds, breaths are rationed near faces. Court sanitation becomes choreography. You can pass or fail. Break the steps and the room answers with locked doors. Keep them and fear begins to lose its echo. Space is the new soap, measured in steps and seconds. Chairs stagger, tables grow wider shoulders, drafts are cross-examined. Windows learn diplomacy. Open for wind that heals, shut for wind that gossips. You can smell calm, clean linen, aired boards, vinegar cooling in bowls. That's Elizabethan cleanliness with a ruler, not a trumpet. Distance polishes protocol better than perfume ever could. Sick rooms bloom like islands inside the palace sea. Small aired, sun forward, with traffic counted like coin. Sheets rotate like soldiers. Airing garments becomes an hourly verb. Bowls of vinegar of the four thieves sip corners into obedience. It's not magic, it's maintenance that refuses to blink. And royal image versus reality shrinks when rooms behave this clearly. The patient's body becomes paperwork everyone respects. Pulse paced tongue. Red breath counted without theatre. Humoral theory mutters hot, cold. Physicians adjust warmth and light. Broths, whisper Rosemary. Water negotiates for the lips' attention. You are learning mercy as a measurable craft. This is Tudor hygiene sighed through clean cloth. Attendants wear habits the way armourers wear steel. Wimes from Sandatosh. Linen caps, sleeves pinned, hands washed to the wrist, rings off. Tools boil. Towels retire after one honourable shift. Waste exits like a secret. Fast, quiet, supervised. That's court sanitation as stealth. Remove before rumour arrives. It keeps palace smells from writing the story first. Perfume stands down. Vinegar and air take the watch. A faint rosewater rinse at the window, not the bed. Civet sleeps in its bottle. Pomander clicks only in the corridor. Scent stops being theatre and becomes punctuation, barely there. Royal grooming knows when to bow to airflow and linen. Elegance here means restraint with receipts. Gatekeeping turns into medicine with a pleasant face. A chamberlain manages minutes and mouths in equal measure. Only the necessary voices cross the doorway. Visitors are rationed hope. If it isn't food, linen, light, or silence, it waits outside. Private chambers enforce purity by schedule, not by scolding. And that schedule smells like order more than like fear. Progress on the road. Put it on pause. The map can hold its breath. Royal progresses yield to hedgerows and local air alone. Villagers learn the palace's 4 verbs. Remove, air, replace, scent. Stables push farther from walls. Kitchens edit the menu to steam and broth. You're watching Elizabeth I Hygiene travel as discipline, not as baggage. Cleanliness here is portable, audit-ready mercy. Propaganda adapts because it must. No boasts about banquets, portraits of composure instead. Letters mention fresh breezes and windows cheerfully open. Ambassadors note the smell of order. Wood, linen, vinegar, sun. That's royal image versus reality, reconciling in the light. The myth breathes, because the body is being allowed to. Parasites and vermin still test the fences, so routines harden. Benches sun daily. Perukes nap in wormwood fogs longer. Comb teeth warm like tiny swords. Seams get vinegar interrogations. Linen shifts scale up so clean by change. Outruns chance. Elizabethan cleanliness wins by repetition, not drama. And repetition is the cheapest cure the palace can afford. Take the portable lesson. Crisis hygiene is just good hygiene with louder clocks. Air first, space second, cloth third, scent last, always in that order. Let palace smells report your discipline, not your panic. Treat time as a disinfectant. Treat silence as medicine. That's Tudor hygiene you can scale from studio apartment to staff meeting. Next, we'll trace the afterlife of all this. How Victorians, Hollywood, and memes rewrote the aroma of a queen. You think the story ends with a ruff and a curtain call? Nope. Nope. History keeps editing in the lobby where posters glow. Victorians sniff the 16th century and swear they smell mud. Hollywood inhales and returns musk, lace, and convenient steam. Between them, royal image versus reality learns new costumes, and your nose gets coached to remember the wrong century. First, Victorians loved soap the way bards love rhymes, loudly, morally. They weaponized lather into sermons about progress and pipes, so Tudor hygiene became their favourite. Before picture, pamphlets snickered at palace smells they never met. Meanwhile, sewers not saints did most of the miracles. The main stuck. Then was filthy, now is clean, full stop. Museum rooms added a filter, varnish that smells like reverence. Glass cases mute, stink and amplify lace. Dust behaves like velvet. You stare at private chambers props that forgot to perspire. Elizabethan cleanliness becomes a mannequin with great posture. The label whispers, the air agrees. You nod at the aura. Objects can sweat, so myths on either easy, trick. Hollywood, generous and shameless, laid more perfume on the past. Faces gleam like porcelain. Dirt is attractive and well arranged. Royal grooming becomes montage. Rose water, wink, instant glow. Garderobes vanish, drains retire, linen works off screen. A single pomander now disinfects entire plot lines. You leave the theatre, believing starch is magic, and time is Febreze. Then came the internet with a pocket megaphone for bad facts. Elizabeth never bathes, they post, and 10,000 noses nod. The algorithm loves decay more than nuance or laundry. Clipped portraits circulate as dermatology doom scrolls. Royal image versus reality loses the rematch to punchlines. But laughter isn't lineage. It just smells louder for a minute. Meanwhile, archives sit politely with better news. Lists of linen shifts, household ordinances, vinegar purchases, receipts for herbs, lye starch, boring to some, decisive to noses. You can hear court sanitation, counting, calm as a steward. This paperwork is the afterlife of Elizabeth Hygiene. When read aloud, it smells like work, not miracle. TV found a middle path, and sometimes nails it. A good series lets basins steam and corridors breathe. You catch candle wax glow rushes and the clink of sanity. Wigs nap in wormwood fog, like disciplined extra actors. Dialogue includes towels. Dignity includes vinegar bowls. That's Elizabethan cleanliness. Learning screen grammar at last. Modern wellness stole a few Tudor tricks without the lead. Clean by chain. Call it rotation, airflow, fabric. Intelligence. Pomanders became diffusers. Herbal remedies became herbal teas. Airing garments turned into balcony therapy for sweaters. We kept the rhythm and skipped the ceruse. A fair trade. Tudor hygiene survived by changing shoes, not beliefs. Even memes can be rehabilitated with a better nose. Show linen lines in wind, not just jokes about lice. Show royal grooming as repair before revelation. Let palace smells be managed, not mythologized on screen. Teach. Remove, air, replace scent as 4 short verbs. Your audience will smell the difference before they say it. The biggest afterlife is in your home, honestly. You already schedule towels, light, and air without speeches. You open a window and do a tiny royal progress through rooms. You practice Elizabethan cleanliness whenever a list saves your day. Clean is a choreography, not an emoji of foam. And discipline, not drama, keeps tomorrow printable. So here's your pocket decoder for future portrayals. If the scene has lace, but no laundry, it's fantasy. If perfume solves plumbing, it's propaganda with credits. If private chambers never rotate cloth, someone hid the ledger. If court sanitation is audible, buckets, brooms, it's closer to truth. Your nose can audit any narrative in under 10 seconds. We end, almost, with a smell you can't bottle continuity. Threads, tying basins to portraits, drains to diplomacy. Elizabeth I's hygiene wasn't purity. It was competence with style. That competence outlived crowns, because habits Keep the habits, and you keep the queen, minus the lead paint. And now, let's bottle all this into an opening that grabs, then close that lingers. We've walked the palace nose first, through rush-strewn corridors, steaming basins, and the hush of private chambers, until the mechanics of Elizabeth II's hygiene started to feel like music. Remove, air, replace, and only then scent. Beneath pearls and propaganda sat sturdy habits, and beneath those habits people, laundresses, chamberlains, apothecaries, keeping palace smells from rewriting policy. That, more than legend, is the spine of Elizabethan cleanliness. If there's a single takeaway, it's this. Cleanliness is choreography, not a miracle. Tudor Hygiene worked because it respected sequence and season. Linen before perfume, airflow before rhetoric, routine before panic. Even royal grooming was honest when it followed the room's truth. Fix the cause, then narrate the glow. When image and practice finally matched, royal image versus reality stopped fighting and started to sing. We also saw the risks, the beautiful lies of Cyrus, the quiet tyranny of Lice, the flood that turns kitchens into pamphlets. We watched court sanitation negotiate with drains, weather and crowds, and we learned that mercy, fresh air, clean linen, fewer elbows is better politics than any scented speech. In crisis, the same four verbs simply spoke louder, and the palace remembered how to breathe. Maybe that's why this world still matters. It proves that elegance is a budget with manners, ethics with a mop, theatre that pays its carpenters. You can borrow the logic for any room you enter. Rid the air before you rid the faces. Let cloth and light do half the work. Perfume is a caption, not the headline. The rest is cadence, habits that carry you when nerves want. If this journey gave you something useful, or just made history smell more human, please like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what we open next. Share this episode with someone who loves quiet power moves and good stories. And in the comments, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. I want to see how far this court travels. May your rooms breathe, your linen speak kindly, and your stories refuse to outpace the truth. That's the contract we learned from a queen who mastered the art of not lying to the nose.